What up? What up? What up? Welcome to the episode of 94 Feet with Coach JT. Do me a favor, please, as always, like in the comment section, subscribe to the pod. Take time out, man. Go visit 94FeetWithCoachJT.com. We got some merch. We got some hoodies up. It's wintertime. Got some beanies up there as well. Appreciate your support. For those that shop merch and tap in with me and buy stuff, and my listeners, appreciate you guys. Man, this is episode 44, season 2. Took a while, long break. A lot of things going on this summer was big. School year hoop is going. A couple other things popping off, so it's that time of year for me. But I got to get back to the content and some of these dope interviews. So let me get to the intro, and we'll keep it pushing from there. My guest today is a freelance photographer that's based out of California. Her view and the lens is capturing a story from her point of view that will be a lifetime memory. She's a mom of 3. She has participated in a Women's March in 2018, advocating for domestic violence, immigration rights, as well as being a part of different communities and events in Sacramento, as well as the music scene for over 20 years. She has had the opportunity to work with artists, as KRS-One, Richie Rich, Larry June, Big Twins from the infamous Mobb Deep. Also, she's had the opportunity to work independent artists such as Hometown Sacramento, like I think it's Bay God, Space. Is it Edge the Beast, maybe? Bricks Marcus, and Brick Marcus, and as many more. But she's a dope photographer, dope person. Gabriela Hernandez, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. My pleasure. Honored to be on your podcast today.
Thank you. So before we get too much into the work, we always got to give a little background history. Just I know you talked about on here some immigrant rights stuff as well, but that might come from some lineage and stuff we talked about offline last week or 2 weeks ago now at an event. Just give us a little background about yourself and the upbringing, where you come from.
Well, I grew up in South Sacramento. Graduated from Valley High School, so I graduated back in 2000. Grew up in the Valley High Center Parkway area. Well, we have history because we went to school together for a minute until you went off into middle school, high school. Hooped in high school, so I got that background as well. Then, later on in life, became a mom, and back in 2009-10 is when I started working with artists. That's where my music journey started. And so the first artist that I actually worked for was Keisha Coles. When she first came out with, she was on tour with actually R. Kelly at that time. So I was a promoter for her when she was on tour. So that's how I started, and then worked my way until life hit. We go through those sprouts where you have to pause for a minute, and ended up going through a difficult time in my life where I had to pause and just really concentrate on being mom of 3 kids and trying to focus on them and get them, situated with getting them to stay focused and accomplish graduating high school, which now I have 2 in college at Sac City. My older son is running track currently, and then my middle son is playing football for Sac City. So, I have my daughter at Elk Grove High School, junior year.
Nice. That's what's up. Talked a little bit about, Center Parkway, South Sacramento growing up, Charles Mack Elementary School. But South Sacramento, G Parkway, all that area, Center Parkway was different. What was that like? What do you remember that made it stood out positively, or something that we may have to, we talk about that kind of may have a good term or a awakening effect on you during that time?
Well, when I was growing up, it was around the time where there was a lot of drug activity, a lot of prostitution. I remember growing up and seeing that. So before I moved from where we were when I was going to Charles Mack, actually, is close to G Parkway area. So I kind of grew up seeing that. I knew what the drive-by scenery was growing up. with gang life around, but you know, that lifestyle never called to me. It was not an attraction to me. I just knew that I wanted to continue pursuing, you know, going to school like a normal kid, having a normal life, especially growing up with immigrant parents. I'm a first generation immigrant. So growing up with parents that, you know, kind of didn't speak fluent English or didn't understand the dynamics, I was the child that was always assisting my parents with life situations. So I kind of grew up a little bit fast for my age because I had to be kind of a support for my parents. And then on top of that, being the oldest of four, I had to help raise siblings on top of that. So it was rough, but also I can say that I did have a childhood where I still knew what it was to be outside, playing outside with my friends. I may not have had the opportunity of staying the night because my parents weren't too fond of that. But I was able to, you know, attend birthday parties like a normal kid. It was fun back then, not like today. We didn't have phones, so we weren't stuck on an iPad or a
Yeah.
phone or social media. We were actually outside. Yes, at times till 12 if there was no school.
Got lucky.
We got lucky before the lights. If our parents said, okay, that's cool, you can stay out till midnight, we were lucky for that. But remembering difficult roads is, I think, by the time we got to middle school, actually, when we encountered losing a friend by a drive-by for the first time. I think that's where it started really sinking in that this was reality.
Taking losses, which is something that does happen in our lives, but just at an early age like that, how does that affect a Southside kid? Like, especially you said first generation immigrant as well. How does that weigh on you?
It was traumatic because I remember coming to school and seeing everybody crying, and then hearing how it took place. It actually happened in front of my house where we lived, and not realizing that what I heard was what had happened. And so knowing that it was a friend that we lost to gun violence at such a young age, um, that whole entire day, I don't even think we even did any school activities because there was so many counselors, so much law enforcement on campus, um, that we just didn't have the energy to do anything besides talk about it. And that I can say is that we did have the opportunity to sit down in class and really discuss what took place and what we can do. But even around that time, that's when gang violence was kind of high at that time. So understanding that our lives looked a little bit different from others, I had the support of my parents, and there was others that did not. So understanding what that looks like and trying to understand how to be there for your friends was traumatic.
Yeah. Um, the love of music and photography or pictures itself. How important was that for you? Was it early on in your life thing that got a hold of you, or something you kind of picked up later on?
So photography, I grew up with my mom being a photographer. So she was a photographer in Mexico. I do still remember times being in the studio with my mom when she was working. So I do remember sitting on a desk playing with cameras, and back in those days were 35 millimeter film that they used, not digital like we use today. So I do remember seeing just film strips all up and down, you know, a room. I remember seeing a black room that was very dark, and that's where I got introduced to black and white photography. And then the music side, I do come from a musical background from my mom and my dad's side. My great grandpa on my mom's side, he was a classical piano composer who is actually inducted in the music for classical music. And then my grandma, I grew up with her being a ballerina, actually. So growing up, we actually learned how to do ballet. That was her way of bonding and exercising with us. And then all my mom's brothers, they all play in bands and play different musical instruments. But who introduced me to the side of hip hop was actually my dad. Um, when he first came to the States, he lived in LA, and he was actually working for a company that was who created spray paint cans. So my dad had a background of graffiti. Um, and so my first introduction was Rapper's Delight and Too Short, believe it or not.
Hey,
So
let's start.
yeah, my dad was not your average dad. My dad was very different. So his introduction to music, I mean, growing up seeing 8 tracks and vinyl records, and then trying to take my dad's vinyl records and trying to scratch and getting in trouble for it.
Right.
And because I was a only child for a long period of time, and then on top of that, being an older sibling, I didn't really have too much space to really grow up with my siblings like that. And I'm pretty sure you can understand being a twin. You had the camaraderie of another sibling. I didn't. So I had to figure out ways to keep myself occupied at times. And music was where I found my time, learning how to record and make mixtapes.
At an early age. Go DJ.
So that's what I got into, and just exploring the different genres of music, because my mom was into jazz music and classical music. And then my dad was a very different type of person that had a different type of category of music. You would have thought he was into Mexican music, but my parents didn't really play Mexican music like that. It was disco and hip hop, jazz, classical. So that was my intro, and that's kind of what kept me occupied, even growing up in the 80s, during those difficult times that we saw and encountered. Music was my escape.
Nice. Via you have active kids in sports. You were active as well. How? I mean, same thing kind of question with the sports. Was it something that, hey, my outlet, or I want to do for fun, or was it like something to get away, or something like, no, I want to this? I know we were outside during that time anyway, so it was something we just kind of had to do anyway. But it wasn't no problem for us to go have fun and be active.
It was an outlet. It was an outlet to stay busy. It was an outlet to um, be with my friends that were actually on the team as well, and staying out of trouble, really, because growing up, we didn't have the opportunities that kids have now versus back then. I mean, we did have like certain places that they would open up for us to, shoot hoops and stuff like that. But then next thing you know, it was closed down. We didn't have really music programs like that unless you were part of the band or um, drama club. We didn't have that. So we had to figure things out. So for me, it was like, you know what? I like sports. I grew up watching sports. Basketball was always my niche. And when my friend Faith, who was like, you know what, you should try out. You should come and try out. I think you'll like it, and I think you will be good at it. But I was already dibbling and dabbling in basketball from middle school. So I was like, you know what, I am going to try out. And next thing I knew, I was on the team. So that's what kept me occupied, because we played all year long.
Yeah. High school stage moment, right? Was there anything in high school that might have been influential in you, like your career path now, that you can remember?
Yeah. When I joined art class, we had a teacher by the name of Mr. Keller. He was a ceramics teacher. And everybody used to always talk about him. And I knew that I wanted to do something in the arts area. I wanted to make sure that I had a class. So when I ended up being in art class for drawing, I had friends in that class that were already graffiti artists. And so being in that culture of hip hop, I gravitated to that. Um, so it was one of those things where once I heard who Mr. Keller was and what he allowed in his classroom by allowing people to go in the back of his classroom and tag, um, he allowed other people from other schools sometimes, and even the b-boy community to come to his class even after school hours, and they would be back there. That's how I knew DJ Epic, who's known in Sacramento. I knew him as Dustin, and he used to be back there on his turntables with other graffiti artists or b-boys breaking. That's kind of where I knew I was like, I want to be in the music space. I know that I want to do something, but at that time I just wasn't sure. I didn't really know specifically what, but I just knew that it was something that I wanted to be a part of growing up.
Yeah. So can keep it moving forward that aspect, at what point do you really realize and invest in yourself? Like go in on this, invest in yourself, as you know, be an entrepreneur, spend your own money, give your own whatever. At what point do you really figure out or feel or get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm going to do this?
After I had my daughter, that's where one day I just sat down at my computer and I was like, you know what? Just because I didn't finish college, because I had kids already, didn't mean that I had to stop dreaming. And so I started doing my research. And by that time, the internet was already a thing. MySpace was a thing. So
You're dating our age here.
I started researching my niche. Like, what did I really want to do? And how did I want to invest in myself? And when I figured that out by doing research, and that was, I mean, even still to this day, sending emails out, sending bio information, really selling yourself on what you bring to the table and how you can assist, like a record label or a team that puts together the promotions for tours and stuff like that. At that time, it was a lot of A&Rs. A&Rs really don't even exist today. But back then, there was a lot. And that's kind of how you got into play. And so that's what I did. When I started reaching out, I started getting contacted. And that's how I ended up doing Keisha Cole's. I got contacted by the company that was doing her tours. And it was a company that was based out of New York. And so, of course, for me, I was like, New York? Okay, I can do this. And then just from there, taking off and knowing that me not being afraid of speaking for myself and really selling myself and really understanding that I'm building myself as a brand and not even letting go of my dreams. I got this. And I felt very confident. And I believed that I was capable of doing it. And I went for it and never looked back.
That's good. So, how much of a relief or satisfaction was that first paid gig for you?
Oh man, it was not a lot that I got paid, but to know that I did get paid for my work and to see my name next to somebody that I was like, oh my God, I really worked for them, was okay. I could do this again. It really solidified it for me that I really was not afraid and I really didn't even hesitate. Not even when I got no's. that didn't even exist anymore. So I was like, okay, there is no way I can stop now at this point.
So, intro talked about some of your influence with the domestic violence campaigns, or just your hands on that. Just talk about just why you decided to do that, and just kind of, or what's the purpose in that as well, because I believe you move with purpose in your work. So just reading that on there, I'd just like to know a little more about that aspect of your life a little bit.
Yeah, so like I stated, life hit and I had to take a pause because I myself was married and ended up encountering domestic violence when I was married. Um, and so when I got out of the situation, which on the 21st of this month actually will be 10 years since I left that situation, um, when I was going through that rough part of finding my purpose again and finding healing in the midst of it all, I knew that I could not be a silent voice. That I knew that I needed to be the strength for somebody that may no longer be here because of that, or that is currently going through that. For me to be that voice for that person that is going through this situation, maybe similar to mine, maybe even more, because when I went to therapy, I did a group therapy first, and listening to the women that were in there, I thought I was in a horrible situation. But after hearing so many different stories, it's still domestic violence no matter what, but there's different levels of domestic violence. And the realization of me understanding the levels of domestic violence, which it's not just physical, it's verbal, it's spiritual abuse, it's mental abuse, it's financial abuse. Um, Understanding that, I was just like, okay, I knew that I had to do something and I had to step in. And when I started sharing my story on social media, and then hearing even my own family members tell me that I was sharing too much or I was doing too much, what made me want to share something so dramatic, so dark? And then I was even told to be quiet about it. Hearing that made me even go and say to myself, like, no, I'm not going to be quiet. Why would I do that? Why would I be ashamed of what I went through? I'm not ashamed of it. um I'm not even afraid of anything. So it just gave me more encouragement to be a voice and to advocate and to really understand that this is something that is still, even to this day, thrown under the rug and not really spoken about, because it's just not women that go through it. It's men that go through it, children that go through it. But women are just a little bit more vocal than men. The stigma of men not being open about certain conversations, and that is one of them.
Very true.
And that's because you guys don't feel the encouragement to be allowed to discuss those things.
Very true.
Because a man's not supposed to show that side of weakness.
That's right.
Which, that is wrong for anybody to say, even for a woman. You're not supposed to share that. You're supposed to be quiet about it. No, it's part of healing. It's part of building strength and knowing that just because you went through something doesn't dictate who you are or determine your path of life. On top of that, it was really important for me to share that because I have children. My children saw it. And me raising biracial kids who are half Black, having two Black men, it's important for them to understand that, no, you don't have to be silent. No, you don't have to hide your feelings. And no, you don't have to cater to somebody else by them saying to you, oh, you're not supposed to share that. No, share it. You're supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to run from them and hide from them. So, and then on top of that, having a daughter and showing her the ropes of what you grow up from a young age to adulthood and being a woman and how you're supposed to be treated, and understanding that abuse is not okay.
How does it make you feel, know that you're supporting others in different aspects with what you do?
It really makes my heart full, because support is just not saying, oh, here's some money. Support is being a shoulder, um, giving people information on community organizations that could support, even church information. There's a lot of stigma behind church,
Mm-hmm.
and just being a vessel and understanding that I may not change somebody all the way, but at least I did something.
Mm-hmm.
And that fulfills me more so in a spiritual way. Mm.
The opportunities to grow your business with some of the names we mentioned in the bio, how exciting are those opportunities for you? Like, I mean, just holding a camera, not just, but holding a camera, filming, communicating. How exciting is that, especially with the new venture that you have going on right now? Like, how big of, I guess, a upper, like I said, an energetic boost is that for you?
It's such a big boost because I was once that little girl that had a dream.
Mm.
And knowing where we come from, didn't have such a big support system when it came to school and organizations and programs. I'm that little brown girl that is probably in high school right now dreaming about being in that position to work with one of the biggest entertainers in the world, that yes, it can happen. And so to be that face on social media, since that's our big platform,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing the work and kind of sharing the behind the scenes, I always say it's not about making money. Of course, we want, our dreams to pay our bills and stuff. Of course, who doesn't? But the more satisfaction for me is just showing the next kid that it's possible. That your dreams are not big. They are bigger than you can ever imagine, and really make them happen. Even with my kids, like when my kids are like, no, oh, that's cool. They just give me oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they see, they're like, oh, mom, like what? It, just seeing that feeling, it's like, yeah, it's your mom doing this.
What would you tell that high school girl if you came across, or a new student you might have come across? What would you tell them?
Don't give up on your dreams. They may not come a reality right now, but if you believe in yourself and believe in faith, and you put them dreams in your back pocket, and when they present themselves, you'll be able to pull them out. And you will be able to say, good job to yourself, and pat yourself in the back and feel the biggest accomplishment, that you held on to them dreams and that you did not let them go.
Nice. I saw all my guests, triple threat in basketball: dribble, pass, or shoot. But for you personally, if you give somebody or give me your triple threat, three things that you hold on to, or you kind of how you move, just give me three things your personal triple threat right now that you kind of hold dear to your heart, or your values or morals, something like that.
Your voice is power. Education is key. So knowledge. Never be afraid to be a student, because when you're a student, you'll gain enough knowledge to become a teacher.
Mm. Dope. Very good. let everybody know where they can find you and call you and hire you and find your workout. We got to take care of that for sure.
So on my Instagram, I go by Gabby, Gabby. She's dope, SHESDOPE. And then on my social media, on my Instagram, actually, there's a LinkedIn link on my bio. You can click on that. It will take you to my website. It will also take you to my website to see my work itself. I have a large gallery of photos that you can see, from family shoots to artist shoots, because I don't just do artist shoots. And that's another thing. I don't stay in the box. I'm always willing to learn new things and try new things. So I don't just say I'm an artist shooter.
Nah.
I've done birthday parties and so on. So you could definitely find all my links on there, including to my most recent projects, which one of them was with you.
Big up to you again. I love it. Our pictures, everything was dope. So appreciate you.
Yeah, so that has been such a fulfilling moment for me, to be a part of a short film, which I never really would have thought that I would have accomplished that this year. But on top of that, with somebody that I've known for years,
Yeah. The
thank you.
collab, right?
Well,
Like how random or the timing, but perfect timing is everything. So be on the lookout for some more collabs, people. For we still working, got some more stuff in the works, but also on the drop of a dime, came through, handled your business, and everybody loves you. So it's a win-win, right? Dope stuff. So appreciate that again. But yeah, it's a weeknight for us. We moving and shaking, but thank you for getting on, getting this interview in. I know we've long overdue, but again, like I said, timing is what it is. It's the timing is right now. So
right.
appreciate you, and like you guys, be on the lookout for her dope work. If you need her, I'll put all the information on the end of the show stuff, and when we post on the social, so you definitely can hit her up, tag her DM. She needs the business. Talk to her. Her price is her price, people. Don't forget it. You heard it here live first here, 94 Feet with Coach JT and Gabriela Hernandez on episode 44, season 2. We out. Peace.
Peace.